Thanks for staying with us. So joining us on the show is Dr. Richard Okoye. Dr. Richard Okoye is the chairman Save a Life group of companies, actually consisting of a software company and hospitals, a group of hospitals that are ISO certified from the US. He's going to be joining us to speak on ways to prevent sudden death, what to do in the case of emergency, and how to checkmate the emergence of these kind of emergency. Welcome to the show, Dr. Okoye. Are you there?
Yeah, my pleasure. Good morning.
Good morning to have you.
I appreciate my pleasure too.
Yes. So we know that sudden death, that's sudden cardiac death, actually, SCD, is an unexpected death that happens, but it's different from heart attacks. So now SCD, which is sudden cardiac deaths, is something that many people experience, just happens suddenly. We see a perfectly healthy man taking a walk and they say he slumped and died. Or somebody taking a jog and suddenly slumped and died. What exactly is SCD, which is sudden cardiac death, and why is it so different from a heart attack?
Yeah, the issue of sudden death in our society has become a thing of deep concern. Considering the frequency at this particular point in time, people staying in the office and they slumped and died. We also even carrying out activity, also like pastors even on the pulpit, also they slump and die. So it is a thing of immense concern and national issue at this particular point in time. However, when you are talking about the issue of sudden death, there's certain terminology in medicine that people tend to use interchangeably, as it were. Now, when you're talking about heart attack, you're talking about the issue of cardiac arrest, and you're also talking about the issue of heart failure. Most times we use this thing interchangeably, but they are not same. Now, when it has to do with the issue of sudden death, that has to do with the issue of the electrical activities of the heart, particularly when the heart starts beating abnormally, when they go to what is called arrhythmia. But in our discussion to do on this very subject, I think it's something that has to be brought in a layman's language to enable us be able to, help our people, considering the medical technology has been so obscured and so coded. So on that particular subject, let me first of all differentiate these three so that we can be in position to know. One is that when somebody has heart attack, which can simply lead to the issue of cardiac arrest, but in that particular case, you are talking about the pipe, the blood vessel that supply the heart itself. And those blood vessels are called coronary arteries, okay? And in a situation where there is a sudden block, even if it has been ongoing in chronicity, but there's a sudden block, complete block of that heart, this time we have a very sudden chest pain, which can, issue of dizziness, breathlessness. The person can collapse. What is making the person to collapse is simply because that particular blood not reaching to the muscle, not reaching to the muscles, also prevent the oxygen reaching to the muscle. Therefore, the muscle will not carry out the electrical activity.
Dr. Okoye, it's really hard to hear you. Dr. Okoye, can't hear him. It's a bit muffled. The connection is a bit muffled. We can't hear you very clearly. It's important we hear you so that we can learn from you. We're going to quick break. When we come back, we'll try to see if this can be solved. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We still have Dr. Okoye with us. Yes, Nima, you had a question for him.
Yes, I heard him when he was explaining that, such sudden death would be due to a blockage of maybe one artery or something to get oxygen over to the brain. Okay. I wanted to get clarity. Is it not the same as pulmonary heart infection or something where you have, is it not the same? Or is that what you're trying to say?
Okay, interesting. When you look at the subject of Medical terminology has been a very funny situation in terms of the fact that most of us are not conversant with the terminology. So I would not like our audience also to flow in like manner. So that's why I want to differentiate very sensitive subjects. But they are different, which has to do with the heart failure as we used to know, heart attack, and also cardiac arrest. Okay, because we use them interchangeably, and in most times it confuses people. They say the person had a heart attack, the person had a stroke, the person has a cardiac arrest. So now let me put it to you this way. When you hear that somebody has a heart failure, what is trying to say there that the heart is not performing in its optimal capacity.
Okay.
In a simple term. Second one is that when somebody has heart attack, there is a section of the heart, in as much as the heart pumps blood to everybody to survive, all the organs to survive, it has to also survive on itself as a structure. And what helps you to survive is what is called coronary arteries around the body and supply blood to all the muscles of the heart. In a situation like you have in a plumbing situation where there's a block of any of those pipes, following the block of those pipes, there won't be blood flowing to the muscles of the heart. The muscles of the heart will now start dying. Before it start dying, this fellow may have a very severe chest pain. That chest pain may radiate to the back or get to the shoulder. It may have some level of what is called syncope, sudden fainting attack, or dizziness, or a kind of blackout. Sometimes the person may suddenly just sit down. If it becomes massive, preventing the blood reaching out a very chunk of the heart, the fellow may collapse and have cardiac arrest. Now, cardiac arrest is the aspect we are talking about when somebody collapses and it passes underway, following what is called electrical activity. The heart is one particular organ that starts itself from birth. That's why when a baby is pregnancy, I say there's cardiac activity, meaning there is life. It has its own ability to start functioning. And that's what it functions is that it sends electrical activity, just like a wire the house. If there be occasion where that current does not get to that particular portion of the heart, it may start misbehaving and the heart may pack up.
Right.
So at the point there is no electrical activity in the heart, you call it cardiac arrest.
Okay.
That very fellow can now slump and die.
All right, let me go ahead.
Okay, doctor, let me ask this question, because I noticed that there are some people who cannot stand the sight of certain things. For instance, blood, and then they pass out. Would you say that sort of person who passes out as easily as that has a heart issue? Yes. Is that possible?
Yeah. The fact one can have anxiety, a shock.
Okay.
And when you have a kind of a terrifying situation, you release what is called a chemical messenger called catecholamines. Those catecholamines actually cause sudden vasoconstriction, narrowing of the blood vessels. And depending on the stage of that individual heart, if there is a challenge there in such a sudden situation, the person may also collapse. If there is something like what we witnessed in the National Assembly last time when the NDDC presentation, there could be what is called sudden vasospasm. The vasospasm is a sudden contraction of that particular vessel of the heart. If it narrows and blood couldn't flow, the person will slump at that point. So that could happen.
Okay, so Dr. Richard,
I'm
glad we're going somewhere that I really want us to reach. What is the first aid in this kind of situation? Because even just yesterday, Abba Kyari's wife slumped. Thank God she regained her consciousness. But somebody was saying, pour water on her, pour water on her. I almost also had a situation here on set where they were saying, pour water on her, pour water on her. Is that the first thing to do when somebody slumps?
Apparently, that is, we really have a very long way to go when it has to do with the subject of our response to emergencies. You know, the fact is that it's not pouring water. As a matter of fact, this will be a very limited time for us to talk about the issue of CPR, what is called cardiopulmonary resuscitation. A picture of what happened during the Euro competition where everything slopped on the field. Of course, we all witnessed that. Nobody brought water. Nobody started tearing his mouth open and all that. When somebody actually collapses, you do a step-by-step process in the aspect of the CPR, identifying that this person is breathless at that point. You make all the calls. Then you start the CPR, all right, which is a subject of its own that we need to be made a national subject right now, considering the overall situation in the country. But let me be in position to point out something very fundamental here. Because when you are talking about the issue of our response, you need to address the fundamental. And what is that very fundamental? We are unfortunately came out from a background. And that background is the background that says when anybody falls, it must be an attack from his suspected enemy or something like that. So if we don't get to appreciate this very value, getting this terminology and this training in a way you reach a common man, we will continue to call it a different name when such instances happen. You know, so I think it's a subject, this is a broad subject, and so, the subject of the process of CPR is something we
this
can
issue of CPR, is it something, so just like you said, CPR is something that, yes, we have to learn. It's a technique that has to be learned, but aren't there any quick fixes? You know, you're like recently a woman was paraded naked because she allegedly her husband died on her while they were together. You know, probably had this SCD, a cardiac arrest or something. So is there something we can learn? I mean, yes, CPR is there, but what do you do immediately? Rush them to the hospital, or do you open their mouth for air to get in? Do you press their chest? What do you do?
That's actually an unfortunate situation we find ourselves in the country. Because anything that has to do at that point will be paramedics. Paramedics in the sense that in as much as it's not absolutely professional, but there should be a training on that. Number one is that there's a step whereby you should confirm whether this very person is breathing or not. And you can put the person, if the person is not yet passed out, you put the person in a lateral position that will enable the airway. You clear whatever may be the problem. If somebody like maybe a sudden collapse or something that happened around, you check around to know whether what happened to this person may even happen to you that is even about to assist. So the other aspect will be the CPR ultimately, so as the blood can be pushed to the brain. Because within 10 minutes of brain not receiving blood supply or lacking oxygen, that brain will start dying. And that is the ultimate intention of CPR, to see how you can manually, by that very compression, push the blood towards the brain, pending the time of the full arrival of the interventions also will come in. But looking at all the other causes, and I think the prevention of that will be able to help us a lot. And then the issue of the professional training, I think, is something that should be made a national program.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because we don't really follow our heart rates, and so we don't know when we are entering the danger zone. I just started wearing a watch recently that tells me my heart rate. And like when I'm exercising, I've noticed that my heart rate can go up to 185, and I'm over 60. What is the heart rate? For what age, and your resting heart rate as well? Because I think when we start to learn that kind of thing, we will now start to take it easy or know what to do.
Yeah.
That's understood. Okay. Now, I want us to, that's why I said the issue that has to do with terminology. There's this particular heart we see, I want us to understand this. Our heart happens to be the busiest organ in the body, the busiest. A normal heart beats average of 100,000 times in a day. And pumps about 7.5, that is 2,000 gallons as in US measurement, but 7.5 liters of blood every day. Just think about somebody in that very busy schedule. Now, you look at what they call heart rate or pulse rate, okay? That very rate is expected that should be between 60 and 100. When the heart rate goes below 60, you call it bradycardia, that this very engine is not actually very strong as it ought to be. It's beating below, and the cause of SEM should be in position to be, sought for. On the other hand, if it goes above 100, it's called tachycardia, that this very heart is racing. Something must be pursuing it, something is trying to catch up with, should be sought out for, and be in position to be addressed. Be that as it may, because of the numerous activity, emotional differences we do experience in the journey of life, there's a range as is expected that your heart rate should be, or pulse rate should be between 60 and 100. So anything above or below should be 18 or concern.
Right. Yes, sir. So when is the right time, or who is eligible for cardiovascular screening? As people are getting older, is there a time frame that you can start taking this screening so that you know the quality of your heart, and if there's anything you can do to start for your heart's health?
Okay. We don't have to, at this juncture, tie it to the age exclusively. When I use the word not tied to the age exclusively, in the sense that there are babies that are born with congenital heart problems, okay? And there are people that may have latent heart problems which may surface on the course of exertion. Just like in the case of Kanu Okoye, remember having been in an active football activity, all of a sudden we were told that he had a heart defect, all right? So in that particular case, one should be in position to, when young, let me say that it's not so common among young people, except if there is an underlying heart problem, which has to do with the issue of manifestation. This other person is feeling a chest pain on the young part now, feeling that very chest pain, sometimes overwhelming tiredness, all right, syncope, sudden collapse, or sudden fall. That very person should have a full cardiac evaluation. Okay. When it has to do with after 40 and above and one getting older, it is expected, if not for any other thing, for you to have your ECG done. That very ECG actually reveals the pattern of the electrical activity, the rhythm. But in a situation, it looks awkward. Then further evaluation during the echo and all the other quarters and all the rest can now come in. But it is expected that one, if not, as a matter of fact, you are very, you get to know that some people will be exercising, dancing, and all of a sudden they collapse and die. Yeah. It's quite a shocking thing.
All right, we have to wrap up, sir, with you. But, I mean, we heard you built a multi-billion-dollar hospital here in Nigeria, and that is focused on heart. Just tell us, in the 2 sentences, why you returned to Nigeria to do this and what you hope to achieve.
The fact is that, number one, is that we need to change the orientation of our people, that not all death is as a result of this, our conventional superstition. And also, most importantly, is the issue that has to do with cath lab. Cath lab is the most important equipment that should be in a hospital to be able to save life in a time like this. And we're privileged to have a deal with a 900 million naira deal, which we did. The CBN, we appreciate the governor and the federal government for that very support, to be able to set up that very cath lab. That today, somebody that have heart attack or issue that we are talking about right now, those things can be identified early, be addressed. When somebody has heart attack, ultimately, that very person will need what is called angiogram. Angiogram traces the vessels and show where there is block. And instantly, angioplasty can be done to be able to open up that vessel. You remember the Senator Bernie Sanders that was during campaign, he had that attack. He got it done and could come back again to do business of this campaign. Right. And also, if that heart rate is very low, the person may require pacemaker, because most of them in that heart failure may not be able to walk. They walk a little thing, they get tired, the leg will be swollen, they will not be able to sleep. If they lie down flat, it will be as if they are choking. Sometimes can wake up in the night as if somebody's about to kill them.
We have to wrap up,
so
sir.
These are available, and by the grace of God, are available in the country now.
Thank you very much, Dr. Richard Okoye, for joining us this morning. It was a pleasure hearing from you and learning more about this issue, this death called sudden cardiac death, SCD. It's different from heart attack, and it's important that Nigerians are very well aware that it can happen to anybody, and we should stay healthy. We would have loved to continue the conversation, because I need to know how far exercise can help somebody have a healthy heart. So it would be nice to hear that, but we run out of time. Let's go on a break now. When we come back, we have another guest. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.